Hello YouTube, this is another gift from my dad. This is it's a 3-inch chuck, and it's hand tightened, and I don't know if it came off an Econo or a Shoreline, but it's a mystery to me. It looks like a Lathe chuck, and so in this video what I'm going to do is clean up this, remove the rust and clean it up. Now, I previously disassembled this because if I couldn't get it apart there wouldn't be a video, right? So this actually wasn't easy. But I wanted to make sure that I could take it apart before I started recording. Here's a look at the bottom of the chuck, and you can see there's rust inside, and you can see that cast iron part there, very rusty. It does have a serial number on it that I'll show you later, or a part number. But anyway, there's the internal threads, and then these two parts separate. The part on the right there is how you tighten the chuck up with your hand, or you can also use a key. There's the spiral thread. And if you've never seen one of these, this is how they tighten up. The threads there match the bottom of the jaws, and as you rotate that disc, the jaws either collapse or expand. Now in this case, two of the jaws are rested in place, and I have to get a little violent with them with the hammer. I think I may do that off screen. So this is for you, Dave. I'm going to soak these parts in diesel fuel. I don't know why I use diesel fuel. I guess it's because WD-40 is too expensive. I mean, I guess I could use motor oil. I don't know. I don't really even think about it. I guess it's because my grandfather's garage always smelled like diesel fuel, and he had buckets of it laying all over the place. So let me go get a brush, and I'll brush these parts up. And I put a little bit of part brushing fluid in here. Diesel fuel is an oil that we burn usually in vehicles. It doesn't evaporate really fast that I could identify. You can leave a diesel fuel just laying around. It's not real stinky. It wipes off real well. It prevents rust. I don't know, there's probably lots of reasons. I just really haven't given a whole lot of thought. I don't think it really like breaks up rust or anything. I think I just want something on the material so it's not dry. And you know, I guess I think that there's pores in the steel, and you know, I want something in those pores. I mean, I guess it could be grease or whatever. But anyway, I'm not even going to let those set too long, but just make sure they got a good coat. Don't forget your personal safety equipment. So here I'm just going to use the wire roll brush to pull the rust off the surface of all the parts, and then I'll put it back in the diesel fuel and let it soak. As the title suggests, I don't know what this chuck is off of. I don't know what it was used for. It's kind of interesting to me. And if any of the viewers here know what this came from, or know what the 43 stands for, please let us know. So now I got to work on getting the jaws out of the chuck. They're in there pretty good, and I don't think this wood block is going to convince them to come out. So here I recognize that each one of the jaws has a number on it, and then on the base plate there's a corresponding number. So when you insert the jaws, you can put the jaws in the correct slot. Now, if you can't handle any graphic images, you might want to go ahead and avert your eyes for just a few moments. And there we go. We got all three jaws out of the chuck. You can also see the numbers on the front there. 3, 2. Now we'll work on cleaning up the chuck itself and each of the jaws. And I really don't have anything to say right here, so just watch me wire wheel these jaws. Now I'm going to be working on the spiral gear. Using the drill and a Harbor Freight wire wheel brush, I'm going to get all the rust out of the inside of this part here. Now we're going to look at reassembling the chuck. During the reassembly process, I noticed a problem with the jaws. They don't want to slide smoothly in the chuck, and they're really tight.
So as you can see, these are still a little bit tight fit. That one a little loose. This one here, it catches right here, and this one is just really stiff. So I'm going to take a detailed look at these and see what I can find causing the issue. Okay, so after a little work, I can actually see what's wrong with this right there.
I have a little music in the background here, so I'll do some voiceover. You can see the bend there in the chuck. I've been sitting around in the junkyard or junk pile and been tossed around, and you can see the ends there are bent up. And that's causing part of my problem, but I still have another problem beyond that, because some of these are still stiff before they even get to that bent section. So as I'm doing this, I'm a little bit perplexed, trying to figure out where the stiffness is coming from. There's a lot of different things. There's the key shaft, the keyway there, so I have to identify where the tightness is coming from. This thing could have been dropped, and the face plate could be bent. A lot of different things here, and again, you can see a little bit of a bend on the tail of that. On that, come on, Don. What am I? The jaw there. So originally I start with just using the file. I see it like a curled ridge, and so I'm trying to file that out because I think the ridge is kind of, just wearing back and forth is kind of worn to, have curved it. But later I find out that that's not the case at all.
I want to get this to go smoothly. God, it's really tight. All right, I'm going to goof around with it for a little bit and try to figure out where that problem is. So I figured out what's causing all the stiffness. I got the calipers out and was kind of measuring, so it wasn't the cupping, and there was plenty of play in the grooves here and vertically. And then I said, well, what could be holding this in? Then I measured the width of this on top here, and I measured this, and they were virtually the same dimensions. So I'm just going to put this on a stone and kind of grind it down on the stone a little more, and then I'll get it where it will quit binding here, and then I'll come and look at these tails. A little bit more grinding done, and now you can see it's in there really good, except for when the tail starts to bend. Nice. Okay, number 3. Again, all the way close until I get to the tail. And then the last one here, number 1. Yeah, that's got a little binding to it as well. Okay, I'll check the measurements and make sure that's what I need. Okay, so with a little sanding, grinding, and ultraviolence, I have got these sliding smooth. Okay. So I noticed all of these got number 43 stamped on them. That's a 43. You can see a 43 there, and a 43 there, and a 43 there. So if we take a look at this part here, I thought I seen a 43 on every single part, but let me double check here. There's a 43, stamped number 43. And the rear shaft here. Let's see here. I don't see a 43, but I see a 2368. There's some deep pits and scores there. I don't know if it's welded or pinned it. and I'm not seeing a 43 here, but that's cast, and you can see this is dinged up pretty good. I suspect that's a number 2 MT taper. We're going to check that here in a little bit. Okay, so we're ready to reassemble now. So we'll go ahead and put these in the correct locations. There's 1 and 2 and then 3. Actually, you know what? I didn't even try this fit. I just assumed that it would be a good fit, but not much binding. Yeah, there's not much binding there, so we'll go ahead and put the teeth back in. Number 3, number 1, and number 2. Okay, so I wouldn't imagine I would get this on the first bit, but eventually it should drop. Oh, got one in there. There we go. Let's see those all come together. There we go, that's pretty slick. Put this back on here. Alright, oh. Huh. So there we go. We got our chuck working again. A little bit of binding on the inside part. These are still just hand tight, but I will go ahead and get this perfectly tight.
So now I'm going to put the chuck in the vise. I'm going to use a bar here to tighten the faceplate up against the tailpiece, which will leave the centerpiece to rotate. And when you rotate that, that will adjust the chuck in and out. Now let's take a final look at the chuck. I'm going to go ahead and bring the tailstock out from the lathe, and we're going to check the M2 taper.
So I've got my tailstock out on my lathe here, and it's designed for a short one, a short M2, but if you spin it all the way out, it should go all the way in. So we're going to see if that's actually an MT2, and it does appear to be one. Now let's take a look at that action on that chuck. And there it is.